You remember the laughter, you remember the bar, you remember the faces that felt like family. But what you may not remember is what was happening behind the scenes. Because while millions were laughing, some of these stars were quietly dealing with heartbreak, loss, and life-changing decisions that would define everything that came after. From career sacrifices to hidden struggles to moments that almost no one ever talks about. This is the real story behind the cast of Cheers, then and now.
Number 1. Shelley Long as Diane Chambers. She was the voice of intellect in a room full of chaos, calm on the surface, but always searching for something deeper. When Cheers began, Shelley Long was in her early 30s and quickly became one of the driving forces behind the show's early success. Her chemistry with Ted Danson didn't just entertain, it carried the series through its most uncertain years. Awards followed, recognition came fast. She won an Emmy, earned multiple nominations, and became one of television's most talked about actresses almost overnight. But at the height of that success, she made a decision that surprised everyone. She walked away. Not because she failed, but because she chose something else. Shelley later explained that she wanted to focus on her daughter, even if it meant stepping away from stardom. It was a choice that changed everything. What followed was not the career she had imagined. Films came, but most failed to connect with audiences. The spotlight slowly faded. And then something darker happened. After her long marriage ended, Shelley went through a deeply difficult period. In 2004, she was hospitalized after a reported overdose. It was a moment that forced her completely out of the public eye. What almost no one talks about is her quiet strength. During her time on Cheers, she worked through intense pressure, personal changes, even filming while pregnant without making it part of the story. Diane Chambers wanted to be truly seen. And in many ways, Shelley Long gave that feeling to millions, even while parts of her own life remained hidden. Number 2. Rhea Perlman as Carla Tortelli. Fast-talking, sharp-tongued, impossible to ignore. Carla was chaos, but controlled chaos, and Rhea Perlman played her with a confidence that never once felt forced. She was there from the very beginning and stayed until the very end, appearing in every single season, becoming one of the most consistent faces of the show. Awards followed her too, multiple Emmy wins, years of recognition, and a character that became unforgettable. But her real-life story is far more unusual than people realize. Long before fame, she met a struggling actor named Danny DeVito. They built a life together long before Hollywood ever paid attention. They married, had children, and stayed together for decades. And then, after more than 30 years, they separated. Not with scandal, not with drama, just distance. What makes it even more surprising is that they never divorced. Even years later, Rhea would say they are still family, still connected. What almost no one notices is the quiet detail behind her success. Her father, a factory worker, later appeared as an extra on Cheers, standing in the background while her daughter became one of the biggest stars on screen. Carla was loud, unbreakable, impossible to miss. And Rhea Perlman proved that strength doesn't always need attention. Sometimes it just lasts. Number 3. Ted Danson as Sam Malone. Before the fame, before the iconic role, there was uncertainty. Ted Danson didn't start Cheers as a guaranteed success. He grew into it, slowly turning Sam Malone into one of television's most recognizable characters. The charming bartender, confident, effortless, always in control. But real life was far more complicated. His early relationships didn't last. His first marriage ended quickly. His second, which brought him 2 daughters, also came to an end after a very public and controversial chapter. It was a period that could have defined him for the wrong reasons. But then something changed. Before meeting Mary Steenburgen, Ted made a personal decision, not about career, but about himself. He chose to become more present, more honest, more aware of the life he was building, and that decision shaped everything that followed. Their marriage lasted decades, something rare in Hollywood, something steady. Even in recent years, he continues to work, appearing in new projects, staying relevant while many of his peers stepped away. What makes his story different is not just success, it is adjustment. Sam Malone was always searching for something more than just the next moment. And Ted Danson spent a lifetime proving that if you do the work, you might actually find it.
Number 4. Kelsey Grammer as Frasier Crane. He wasn't supposed to stay. When Frasier Crane first appeared, it was meant to be temporary, just a short arc, a passing character. But something about him, the voice, the timing, the quiet insecurity behind the confidence made him impossible to ignore. Kelsey Grammer turned a small role into one of the longest-running characters in television history. From Cheers to Frasier, and then back again decades later, it became more than a role. It became a lifetime. Awards followed. Success became expected. But behind that success was a life marked by loss most people never fully understood. When he was just a teenager, his father was murdered. A few years later, his younger sister was taken and killed in a crime that shocked the entire country. And it didn't end there. 2 of his half-brothers died in an accident years later. Loss, again and again, at an age when most people are still figuring out who they are. Kelsey struggled. Addiction, arrests, rehab, moments that could have ended everything. But somehow, he kept working, he kept building, and over time, something shifted. His later years brought more stability, a family, children, a different kind of life than the one he started with. What makes his story unforgettable is not just survival. It is the weight he carried while still making millions of people laugh. Frasier Crane spent years trying to understand human pain, and Kelsey Grammer lived a life that gave him more of it than most. Number 5. Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe. When she arrived, everything changed. The show had already found its rhythm, its audience, its identity, and then suddenly there was a new energy. Rebecca Howe was different, more frantic, more emotional, always chasing something just out of reach. Kirstie Alley stepped into a difficult position, replacing a beloved character, and somehow made the role her own. She won awards, gained recognition, and proved she belonged there. But her life off-screen was far from stable. Success came, but so did struggle. Weight battles played out in public, personal choices became headlines, opinions turned into controversy. And through it all, she remained in the spotlight. What most people never connect is where her story really began to change. Years before fame fully settled in, her mother was killed in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. At the same time, Kirstie was battling addiction. It was a turning point that shaped everything that followed. She later found a path out, but the impact never fully disappeared. Her career had highs, films that succeeded, shows that ran, but it was never a straight line. In 2022, her life came to an end after a sudden illness, one that progressed far faster than anyone expected. Rebecca Howe was always searching, always reaching for something better, and Kirstie Alley lived a life that never stopped trying to get there. Number 6. Woody Harrelson as Woody Boyd. He walked in at the hardest moment. After a major loss on the show, a gap that felt impossible to fill. And somehow he made it work. Woody Boyd was simple, kind, almost innocent in the way he saw the world, and that simplicity became his strength. Woody Harrelson was young when he joined, but quickly proved he belonged. Awards followed, recognition came, and his journey didn't stop there. After Cheers, he built one of the most unpredictable careers in Hollywood. Serious roles, dark films, major franchises, performances that showed a completely different side of him. But behind that success was a story few could imagine. His father was a convicted hitman.
a man sentenced to life in prison for a crime that shocked the nation. Woody was just a child when his father disappeared from his life. The truth came later, not in headlines, but in a letter. Something that changed how he saw everything. He would go on to visit his father, try to understand him, even question the story the world believed. But some questions never get clear answers. What makes his journey different is the choice he made. He didn't let that shadow define him. He built a life, a career, a voice completely his own. Woody Boyd saw the world in a simple way, and Woody Harrelson proved that even the most complicated past doesn't have to decide your future.
Number 7. John Ratzenberger as Cliff Clavin. Not every iconic character is planned. Sometimes they are created in a single moment. John Ratzenberger originally auditioned for a different role. He didn't get it, but before leaving, he made a suggestion. What if there was a guy at the bar who always had an answer, even when no one asked the question? That idea became Cliff Clavin. And just like that, he turned himself into one of the most recognizable faces on the show. He appeared in nearly every episode, delivering lines that felt both ridiculous and strangely believable at the same time. But his real success came quietly, away from the spotlight. While most people remember him from Cheers, millions have heard his voice without even realizing it. He became a constant presence in animated films, building a second career that stretched across decades. What almost no one connects is how consistent that success has been. Film after film, role after role, always there, even if unnoticed. His personal life, like his career, moved through changes, relationships that began, ended, and began again. But outside of acting, he built something else, a business focused on environmentally friendly materials years before it became mainstream. The man known for talking spent much of his real life actually building. Cliff Clavin always believed he knew everything, and John Ratzenberger proved that sometimes knowing when to act matters more than knowing what to say. Number 8. George Wendt as Norm Peterson. You didn't need an introduction. The moment he walked in, everyone knew his name. Norm wasn't just a character, he was a feeling, comfort, routine, a place where nothing really changed. George Wendt carried that role for the entire run of the show, never missing a single episode. A rare consistency in an industry where nothing stays the same. Recognition came, nominations followed, but the biggest reward was something else. He became part of people's everyday lives. After Cheers, the path wasn't as smooth. Projects came and went, some failed quickly, others never reached the same level. But instead of chasing the spotlight, he found a different stage. Theater, live performances, real audiences. It gave him something television could not. What makes his story more recent is its ending. In 2025, George Wendt passed away quietly, at home, in his sleep. No long illness in the public eye, no dramatic farewell. Just a quiet goodbye, much like the character he played. What few people realize is how connected his life was to comedy, even beyond Cheers. Family ties, early struggles, even being pushed out of college before finding his path. None of it looked like success at the time, but it led him exactly where he needed to be. Norm Peterson never had to try too hard to belong, and George Wendt spent a lifetime becoming someone people were always happy to see walk through the door. Number 9. Nicholas Colasanto as Coach. He didn't need loud moments to be remembered. Coach was gentle, quiet, sometimes confused, but always kind. And that kindness gave the show something rare: heart. Nicholas Colasanto joined Cheers later in his career, after already spending years working behind the scenes in television, directing, creating, building a long path before stepping in front of the camera. When he finally did, it felt natural. The audience connected with him instantly. But while viewers saw warmth, something else was happening in the background. His health was already declining. Years of personal struggle, including alcohol addiction, had taken a toll long before Cheers began. Even as he earned recognition, Even as his character became beloved, his condition continued to worsen. Those around him noticed the changes, the weight loss, the fatigue, the moments he couldn't fully hide anymore. And then, in 1985, his life came to an end. He was only 61. His absence left a space that could not truly be replaced. What makes his story unforgettable is what came after. The cast honored him, quietly, keeping his memory present even when he was no longer there. A small detail, a photograph, something only those who knew would fully understand. Coach made people feel safe, and Nicholas Colasanto left behind something even stronger, the kind of presence that doesn't disappear even after the person is gone.